Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, Deputy Secretary of State, for strong messages, which are very much needed here back in this country. And I was following very closely to the first day of the conference, and I'm really inspired with the messages which were voiced by the U.S. colleagues, but also very much confirmed by the representatives of the Ukrainian government and authorities, and will definitely be reiterated by me in my speech. So it's a great pleasure to be here today, despite of the fact that it is online. But maybe we're far when it comes to miles, but we're definitely very close when it comes to our values and our goals, and as you've mentioned in your presentation. So first of all, let me thank you again for the U.S. firm position in defense of truth, Ukraine's territorial integrity, and standing for the international law at the last OSCE Ministerial Council plenary session in particular. So the strong support of the U.S. authorities calling to international community to keep Ukraine on the top of the agenda is highly appreciated by our government and very much needed, as well as strong words about Russia's responsibility for the armed aggression on the territory of Ukraine, annexation of Crimea, and sabotage of the Minsk commitments, especially following the last weeks. So, and of course, we cannot but overestimate the U.S. support to Ukraine during the last 6 years and its efforts to change our country and to defend it from the external Russian aggression. So, but now let me reiterate the greetings to President Zelensky to the new upcoming political period in the United States, and we're looking forward to work with the new leadership, standing with the firm ground of support of Ukraine with this administration. Indeed, Ukraine and U.S. have these strategic relations based on the both shared values, but also the shared goals, which hopefully to be reiterated in the upcoming period. So, but also today, speaking a bit more globally, there are many opportunities ahead of us, and make our partnership even more efficient will definitely make the whole transatlantic community stronger and bring more security, not only in Europe, but at the whole transatlantic space. And Ukraine is really ready to be not only a partner to the U.S., but one of the key allies of the U.S. in the region, in the Black Sea region, in the eastern flank of the NATO forces, and thus we're very much looking for a very strong and systemic engagement, having in mind that Ukraine is playing and is about to play even stronger role in the region, and in particular when it comes to the Black Sea security. I'm sure that this approach will definitely allow us to have more decisive impact to the situation in the region and remain remain effective in addressing the extremely tense challenges we have right now because of the de facto control of some parts of the Black Sea areas by the Russian Federation. But 2020 has not brought more stability of the security in Eastern Europe, and quite contrary, the Kremlin continued its aggression against my country, continues to build it up in the Black Sea, undermines the democratic process and neighboring states, and not only Ukraine. And to resolve these negative tendencies with the devastating input of the whole Euro-Atlantic security, we should enhance our cooperative security arrangements and reiterate on that. So, coming back to one of the issues which have already been discussed in course of the past of the yesterday discussion and today, Ukraine think tank in Europe Center have recently presented the results of the public survey on the Ukrainians' expectations in a connection with the foreign policy and our European and Euro-Atlantic course. The foreign experts and societies were asked about the relations with the U.S. The highest percentage of Ukraine Ukrainians said that they expect security guarantees, more active role of the U.S. in the Donbas peace process, and also financial and contribution to the security and defense reform agenda of Ukraine. At the same time, almost 18% would like to see more pressure from Washington regarding the reforms agenda, and especially when it comes to the rule of law, justice, and anti-corruption. Ukraine is committed, meanwhile, to increase its cooperation with NATO as an enhanced opportunity partner, building on the reform agenda, which is quite progressively now moving towards Ukrainian parliament and then being implemented by the government. Of course, the key area for our cooperation is the security in the Black Sea region and the security in the Black Sea as it is. And we should all recognize the Black Sea as a strategic region for transatlantic security, whereas the security threats are not addressed properly and should be addressed in a very strategic manner. And I'm sure that U.S. leadership in this process will only help to revitalize the regional efforts aimed at bringing more security and stability in the region. The strategic balance originally destroyed by Russian aggressive actions should definitely be restored by our joint efforts. We see our role basically also in supporting and enforcing our partners in defending its eastern borders, supporting the allies in policies and deterrence activities, even in a larger regional context. We also highly appreciate a strong support in terms of the general reforms agenda, and I'm sure that being strongly committed to EU and NATO integration, Ukraine become even more reliable partner in terms of bringing our economic cooperation to a higher level by the reforms we're delivering on, by presenting the sustainable regulatory space and systemically and very drastically tackling the challenges related to the rule of law and anti-corruption. And this is also shown by the commitment of the President of Ukraine and all of the whole Parliament by restoring the whole anti-corruption institutions as it was destroyed by the recent decision of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine. Despite the upcoming opportunities and challenges, we highly appreciate and value the unwavering bipartisan support of Ukraine. Military assistance and sanctions help us to withstand the ongoing aggressions and to proceed with the reform agenda, knowing that there is a strong support from the U.S. nation, U.S. people, and U.S. Administration, including through increasing in available funds and providing Ukraine with the lethal weapons. I cannot but mention a very strong role U.S. played in terms of preserving and maintaining sanctions against the Nord Stream 2 Russian gas pipeline aimed to undermine the energy security of the European continent, and being fully supportive here in terms of understanding that it's far not the economic project, but mostly a geopolitical project of the Russian Federation. We also expect that U.S. will continue and increase its efforts in Donbas peace process, and it was largely discussed also yesterday, and I'm happy that we're moving towards this discourse further. The time also has come to materialize the decisions of the Bucharest summit of 2018, and I'm happy that Deputy Secretary of State have also mentioned this issue. We rely on U.S. support also in ensuring Ukraine finally becomes the member of the Euro-Atlantic community and eventually joins NATO. I think that now it's mostly a very practical issue. It's not about even political aspirations, because we're totally reforming our legislation and security and defense sector based on the NATO standards. We're increasing our interoperability with the NATO military forces and army. We're pretty active in terms of ensuring the stability over the region, and basically Ukraine and NATO will definitely benefit from this decision and materialization of this perspective. Our society is clearly understanding that membership going hand in hand with the decisive reforms, and this is what we're delivering here back in Kiev. For the very end, given the fact that most of the discussion of today will be based on the economic development and transformations and the reform agenda, I would like to elaborate a bit on the issue which is on top of that, and on top of the international agenda. Whenever I communicate with the US or any other partners all over the globe, is the challenges we face in terms of rule of law, anti-corruption. You know that recently Parliament has restored the whole anti-corruption infrastructure, but what was affected, this crisis was affected by those vested interests who still striving for gaining the power and trying to fight over the pro-European and pro-Western oriented policy of the president and the parliament. So this is the fight we're fighting very severely and hardly, and this is where we show the total commitment. While we understand that there is a concern, but this concern is definitely should be balanced with the understanding that the political commitment is there, and there is no compromises on the reform agenda and establishment of the rule of law. And to finish my speech, I'm really grateful for the strong messages on support of Ukraine's aspirations and reforms agenda, which we heard over today's introductory remarks, but over yesterday's speech. And it's a great pleasure that Ukraine in US Foundation becomes our reliable partner and keeps on putting Ukraine highly on the agenda. So thank you, colleagues, and looking forward for hearing more over today's discussion.